They say the river remembers, that if you sit long enough by the water's edge, you'll start to hear the voices that drift with the current. Some crying out for justice, some whispering secrets they swore to keep forever, and others, the souls still searching for forgiveness. This isn't just a story about two girls. It's not simply about love or loss or power. It's a story stitched together with silence, embroidered with betrayal, and sealed with a single golden fish scale. Some say she was cursed. Others claim she had it coming. But what if the true enemy was envy itself, quiet as a shadow? Would we recognize it before it's too late? If you've ever loved someone and felt forgotten, if you've ever wanted something so badly you'd trade your conscience just to have it, then listen closely, because this story might just be yours too. Down in the southern lowlands, where the river curves gently through golden cornfields and rows of swaying palms whisper under the sun, there lies a small village called Eden Valley, a place where people live in harmony with nature and where legends passed down by firelight are believed as truth. It was there that two girls were born just weeks apart, raised on the same river water, under the same sun and wind, and lulled to sleep by the same folk songs their grandmothers sang while combing their hair each morning. Zara and Amara, their names often spoken in the same breath, as if destiny had braided them together. Zara had eyes sharp as a knife, a voice that cut through the air, and a mind quick to challenge, quick to lead. People in the village said she was born to command. Whether it was leading the younger kids on firewood hunts or winning storytelling contests at the village square, Amara was her opposite. Gentle as spring water, her face was soft and round. Her thick, naturally coiled hair framed a pair of kind eyes that seemed to ease even the deepest sorrow. They grew up side by side, hand in hand to school at the old teacher's hut, laughing wildly as they splashed in the river, and even sharing a battered clay pot during New Year festival games. Everyone believed, one day, even after they married and had children, these two would still live close to each other, like puzzle pieces that were never meant to be apart. Zara's mother was a widowed farmer. Their life was simple, just enough to get by. But in that tiny thatched house, there was always laughter, always the comforting smell of cassava leaf soup. Amara lived with her grandparents, a family known for their traditions and grace, deeply respected by the villagers. Different in many ways, their friendship was a beautiful song, one that seemed unbreakable. But when they turned 16, something happened that shook the entire village. The Harvest Festival, the grandest in 10 years. Eden came alive with preparation. Men rehearsed warrior dances. Women embroidered sacred scarves. Young girls practiced moonlit dances. Zara and Amara were chosen for the main dance performance, a rare honor every girl in the village dreamed of. Then the day arrived. Drums pounded through the valley as dancers spun in wide circles. When Amara raised her deep crimson silk fan and glided across the stage like a breeze, one pair of eyes stopped moving. Prince Malik, the sole heir to the Delta throne, had arrived in whispers and curious glances. He wasn't what people imagined. Not arrogant, not boastful, just quiet, standing behind the front row, holding a cup of herbal tea, his gaze thoughtful. But the moment Amara stepped forward, spun gracefully, and smiled at the crowd, Malik's heart skipped a beat. Zara, playing the drum behind the dancers, saw it all. She saw the way Malik tilted his head, his eyes fixed on Amara. She saw how the sunlight lit up Amara's face, making her glow like a falling star. And in that moment, a strange feeling crept into Zara's chest. Bitter, tight, and unfamiliar. That night, after the festival, the girls sat beneath the old mango tree, their childhood sanctuary. "Did you see the way the prince looked at me?" Amara whispered, her cheeks flushed with shy excitement. "Yeah, I saw," Zara replied shortly, lips pressed into a line. "I don't know what to think. His eyes scared me a little, but also they felt warm," Amara said, smiling softly. Zara nodded, but inside her, a quiet storm was rising. Not because Amara had caught someone's eye, but because, for the first time in her life, Zara felt unnecessary. Even after the harvest festival, the air in Eden still shimmered with a kind of magic. From the fish vendors to the blacksmith's bench, the whispers never stopped. Has the prince made his choice yet? They say it's a girl with crescent moon eyes. Her name's Amara. Amara went on with her life, though she walked the village paths more quietly now. Every glance, every smile from a passerby turned her cheeks a soft red. Zara, on the other hand, grew silent. She no longer invited Amara to pick wildflowers. She didn't strike up conversations when they sat side by side weaving baskets. 1 week later, while Amara was helping her grandmother stir a pot of soup behind the house, the sound of hooves echoed through the valley. A group of royal riders entered the village, white horses beneath them, cloaks embroidered with the crest of the Delta dynasty. A crown shimmering over a deep blue field. At the front rode a young envoy who halted before Amara's home and raised his voice with authority. "I bring word from His Highness Prince Malik. He has a message for Lady Amara of Eden." Everyone froze. Amara's grandmother nearly dropped the ladle. Amara stepped to the door, her face pale. Sir, what is this about?" The envoy unrolled a parchment sealed in red wax. "By royal decree of Prince Malik of the Delta Kingdom, I, Malik, send my invitation to Lady Amara, the one who stirred my heart at the recent festival. If she accepts, she is to come to the royal city within 3 days to formally receive my proposal and become my betrothed." The news spread like wildfire across dry grass. The whole village seemed to pause, as if a fairy tale had just come alive. But amid the cheers and congratulations, Zara stood in the background, her hands clenched so tightly her knuckles turned white. That evening, Amara came to Zara's house. She sat beside her friend, face glowing but edged with fear. "Zara, I still can't believe this is real. But do you think I should go?" Zara didn't turn around. She stared into the fire, her voice flat. "You already know the answer. Why ask me?" Amara fell silent, then said softly, "I just wanted to know, if I leave, will you still be my sister?" Zara smiled, a smile that never reached her eyes. "I've always been your sister, haven't I?" In the dark, Zara's eyes welled up. But Amara never saw the tears fall. There were nights when Zara couldn't sleep. She would lie still, staring at the moonlight slipping through the cracks of her thatched roof, listening to the crickets, the wind brushing past the palm leaves. But inside, there were other sounds. Sounds of envy, of emptiness, of a quiet kind of heartbreak no one had the words to name. Amara remained the same. Gentle, radiant, still treating Zara as her whole world. But that wasn't enough anymore. Zara didn't want to be the one left behind. She didn't want to be the shadow. She didn't want to be the kind sister people forgot. One misty evening, as drizzle fell and fog wrapped around the village like a secret, Zara overheard a neighbor speak of a woman in the southern mangroves, a place called the Whispering Swamp. The woman had no name, no age. People only called her the Witch of the Night Wind. They said she could make people disappear or become anything for a price. Jealousy no longer lived in Zara as a feeling. It had become a purpose. That night, she packed a small bag, left a note for her mother saying she was going to the next village for medicine, and slipped out into the darkness just after the moon disappeared. The path into the Whispering Swamp was a maze, twisting roots, deep black puddles, and strange whispers that sounded like someone calling her name through the wind. Zara walked with fear in her chest, and a hunger in her heart even she couldn't explain. After 3 hours wading through mud, dodging vines that clutched at her ankles and leeches thick as fingers, she saw it. A small shack built from rotting wood, its roof hanging like the hair of a weary elder. The witch was already outside, as if she'd been waiting all along. She wasn't as old as Zara had imagined. Her skin shimmered like fish scales, her silver curls coiled tightly, and her eyes glowed like fireflies in the dark. "You've come," she said, not asking for a name. "From the moment your heart cracked open, I heard you." Zara swallowed hard, her lips dry and trembling. "I want Amara gone. I want to take her place. I want to marry the prince. I want to be queen." The witch nodded. She didn't smile. She didn't judge. "You're not the first to say that here, but every wish has its price. Are you ready to pay it?" Zara didn't hesitate. "I'm ready." The witch disappeared inside her shack. Moments later, she returned with a small glass bottle, filled with a thick, glowing emerald liquid that seemed alive. "Make her drink this. She won't be human anymore. She'll become something small, harmless. No one will find her. No one will remember." Zara shivered. What will she become? The witch didn't blink. "A fish. A goldfish in the river where you two used to bathe." "Will it hurt?" Zara whispered. The witch shook her head. "Pain doesn't live in the body, child. It lives in the soul, and that is hers to bear. Zara took the bottle. Her hands trembled, her thoughts twisted. But the desire burned brighter than fear. As she turned to leave, the witch said one last thing. "Remember, magic always remembers. It doesn't forgive. Not even the quiet sins." Zara didn't answer. She walked out of the swamp, the bottle tucked deep into her cloak. Rain still fell, and for the first time in her life, her conscience was silent. Zara returned to the village while the sky was still dark. The air was thick with the scent of rain and damp soil. She hid the vial deep in a cloth pouch and slipped it beneath the floor mat of her hut. Her hands trembled, not from cold, but from the weight of the truth she now carried. She had crossed a line, one she could never uncross. The next morning, Amara knocked at her door. Same smile, same clear, innocent eyes. Not a hint that she knew her closest friend had just stepped away from love and into betrayal. "Zara," Amara chirped, "I brought you some cakes. Grandma made too many again." Zara forced a smile. "I have something for you too." She went inside and returned with a white porcelain jar. Inside was water, infused with the strange potion. Zara had diluted it with sweetgrass tea to hide the odd scent, and added honey to make the taste soft and familiar. "This drink is for calming the heart," she said. "A peddler from the next village gave it to me. It'll help you feel light." Amara, trusting as always, sat cross-legged on the mat. She took the cup in her hands and smiled again. "You always think of me." Zara said nothing. She just watched. Watched as Amara's lips touched the cup. Watched the pale golden liquid slide down her throat. And then it began. Amara clutched her chest. Her eyes lost focus. Her body trembled. She made a sound, low, confused, then collapsed onto the mat. Her hands disappeared. Her body shrank. A shimmer of golden light burst around her. And in seconds, where Amara had once sat, there was now only a goldfish. Tiny. Silent. Glinting beneath the morning sun, seeping through the thatched roof. Zara stared, her eyes wide and unblinking. She said nothing. She stepped forward, her hands shaking, and gently scooped up the fish. A storm churned in her chest. But there was no room left for regret, only panic and the fear of being found out. She took a large water jar, filled it, placed the fish inside, and sealed the lid. Then she walked to the river, to the very place they used to play, where they once floated banana leaves and laughed until their sides ached. Zara knelt by the bank. She whispered, "Goodbye, Amara. I'm sorry, or maybe I'm not." She tilted the jar. The goldfish slid into the current. It flicked its tail, then vanished beneath the green moss and reeds. Zara stood there a long time. The wind tugged at her sleeves. On the water's surface, nothing remained. But in her soul, a scratch had been carved into the stone. a mark that would never fade. Zara didn't return home right after releasing the fish into the river. She wandered the dirt paths of the village, trying to breathe, trying to convince herself it was done, that everything was hers now. But still, her heart beat faster with every echoing footstep in the quiet village. The news of Amara's disappearance spread fast. Some said she'd been kidnapped. Others believed she ran away, overwhelmed by the weight of becoming a queen. A few old women whispered that they'd seen her by the river at dawn. And then she was gone, like mist. Prince Malik was devastated. No letters, no goodbyes, no trace. He sent search parties from mountain peaks to jungle routes, but every effort came back empty. He stopped sleeping. His heart, once lit by Amara, now sank into a heavy silence. That's when Zara stepped in. She didn't rush. She didn't offer love. She simply stayed close. A quiet presence in the shadows of his grief. A place to lean when the walls of sorrow closed in. A month passed. Then Malik announced his decision. He would marry Zara, not for love, but for loyalty. The kingdom needed a queen, and she was the only one who hadn't abandoned him. The wedding came. No music, no drums, no dancing. Eden did not celebrate. People whispered behind closed doors, but no one dared speak aloud. Zara walked into the palace wearing a crown that weighed more than gold. It was guilt that bent her neck. She became queen. Every morning she woke in silk sheets. She breathed in the scent of exotic flowers. She wore gowns lined with gold. And every night, she dreamed of golden eyes beneath the water, watching her. Not with anger, but with a question. Why was it you, Zara? Despite everything, the power, the title, the half-hearted affection, Zara felt like a stranger standing in a golden throne room with no one beside her. Malik was kind, gentle. He still held her hand at royal feasts. But in his eyes was the emptiness left behind by someone who never returned. Zara began to change. She tightened her grip on the palace, issued more commands. The maids whispered, "She's no longer the girl from Eden." Her heart hardened. No softness, no tremble, no forgiveness. Then, one day she summoned Amara's family to the palace. Forced them to work in the gardens, scrub the floors, cook the meals. No one understood why, but Zara did. She needed to erase Amara completely. But the harder she tried to bury her, the brighter that flame burned in the hearts of others. The surface of the Eden River was always still in the early morning, clear as glass, soft as breath. But one day, before the sun had even kissed the tops of the trees, something strange happened. Across the river, in a thatched hut at the edge of a neighboring village, lived a widow named Eliza and her only daughter, Kiara. They were poor, living off fish, garden greens, and odd jobs for the wealthier families. Yet Eliza held tight to her faith in God and raised her daughter to be kind, even in hunger. That morning, Kiara went to the river to fetch water as usual. But when she poured the water into their clay basin, she gasped. "Mother, there's a fish in my jar." Eliza rushed outside. She froze. There it was. A tiny goldfish, gleaming like moonlight, its eyes clear and deeply sad. The two of them placed it gently in a large bowl, added clean water, and just sat there, gazing at it, as if witnessing a miracle. "Maybe this is God's blessing," Eliza whispered, her eyes shining. "A rare fish like this might change our lives." Kiara said nothing. Something felt strange. The fish didn't flip or flop. It swam in slow circles, as if thinking. That night, after Eliza had gone to bed, Kiara stayed by the bowl, unmoving. "If you're a miracle," she murmured, "show me. But if you're a soul, please don't stay silent." Then, something no one could have expected happened. The water rippled gently. The goldfish lifted its head and spoke. "My name is Amara." The voice was soft, almost no louder than a breath, but clear. "I was turned into this. I need help." Kiara recoiled, eyes wide, unsure if she was dreaming. Who said that?" "My name is Amara. I once lived in Eden. I was betrayed, transformed, but my soul never died. Please, save me." Kiara didn't sleep that night. She sat by the bowl for hours, listening, not to words, but to flashes of memory that flickered in her mind like dreams. A friendship broken, a stolen crown, a soul trapped in scales. The next morning, she told her mother. At first, Eliza laughed, until she saw the look in her daughter's eyes. Then she hesitated. Kiara took her mother's hand. "Mother, if this is real, we can't sell her. No matter how poor we are, we can't sell a person." Eliza sighed. She'd lived long enough to know the world held strange things, and this time, she agreed to keep the secret. They moved the fish into a white porcelain jar, lined it with soft cloth, sealed the lid tightly, and told no one. But a creature that glowed could not stay hidden for long. Whispers spread, and soon the greedy began to listen. Kiara woke from a restless sleep. Again, the dream. A girl submerged in swirling water, calling out through the waves. And each time, it grew clearer. She no longer doubted. The goldfish was human. A cursed soul. But Eliza was torn. They were poor. So poor that some days, all they had was rice porridge. Every time she looked at the porcelain jar, she thought of what it could buy. Food, clothes, a chance to leave this life behind. Yet every time she looked into her daughter's eyes, she saw something stronger than hunger. Conviction. "If we don't help her," Eliza whispered, "you'll never forgive me. And maybe I won't forgive myself either." Word of the glowing goldfish had spread. Now, even merchants from the central village were coming, bringing coins, silk, and promises soaked in greed. They pretended to be collectors of rare creatures, but their eyes burned when they glanced at the sealed jar. One afternoon, while Eliza was at the market, a man snuck into their home. He searched every corner until he reached the jar, his fingers brushing the lid. But at that exact moment, Kiara stormed in from the fields, wielding a broom like a sword. "Don't touch her!" she shouted. He fled, but Kiara knew. If they didn't leave soon, she wouldn't be able to protect Amara. That night, when Eliza returned, they made a choice. "I'll help her become human again," Kiara said. "But I need to find someone who knows magic." Eliza nodded slowly. In the haze of memory, she recalled hearing of someone. An old priestess in the eastern forest. A woman said to have once brought a girl back to life after lightning struck her. No one knew her real name. They called her the Gatekeeper of Shadows. The next morning they packed food, wrapped the jar tightly in cloth, and began the journey. Over hills, across rivers, under twisted roots. Kiara held the jar close to her chest, as if cradling a soul. Their feet bled before they saw it. A moss-covered hut, hidden deep in a bamboo grove. The gatekeeper emerged like a shadow. She didn't ask their names. She looked straight at the jar and said, "Not every fish keeps its voice. She's strong, but she doesn't have much time." She handed them a bundle of pale purple herbs. "Rub her scales with these leaves. But to fully break the curse, someone who truly loves her must see her before the full moon rises." Kiara's voice trembled. "What happens if they don't?" The old woman stared into the trees. "Then the water will take her soul. Forever." The sky burned crimson like spilled blood as Kiara and her mother approached the gates of Eden. The porcelain jar lay quiet in Kiara's arms, wrapped in thick cloth, held close to her chest, as if she were cradling a soul that breathed slower with each passing hour. Only one night remained before the full moon. Amara was weakening. Her voice now came in soft echoes, thin as wind across reeds. Kiara could feel it. She knew, if she didn't reach the man who once loved Amara in time, the curse would never break. But Eden's gates no longer opened easily. Under Queen Zara's rule, security was tight. Strangers were threats. Kiara and Eliza were stopped by two guards clad in black armor. "By the Queen's orders, no one enters the palace without a summons," one of them said, voice cold as steel. "But we carry something that could save a soul once beloved by the royal court," Eliza pleaded. The guards did not move. Eliza pulled Kiara aside. They sat beneath a tree, hearts heavy. Kiara placed her hand on the jar and whispered, "Amara, don't leave me. I'll bring you back, no matter what it takes." Then someone approached. A man with salt and pepper hair, lean frame, eyes still sharp with youth. Eliza recognized him at once. Tula, the palace wine steward, the only man still allowed to move freely between the gates. "Eliza, is that really you? You look changed. What's going on?" Quickly, Eliza told him everything. Tula listened in silence. Then, softly, If what you say is true, that girl is Amara? Yes, Kiara said, voice trembling. And if she doesn't see the king before the moon is full, she'll be lost forever. Tula paused, then nodded slowly. I can't bring you in myself, but I can deliver this jar. I know when His Majesty leaves his chamber. If fate still has breath in her story, it'll happen before dawn. Kiara hesitated. She didn't want to let Amara go. Trust him, Eliza said, resting her hand on her daughter's shoulder. Sometimes, to save someone, you have to let them go so another can catch them. Kiara handed the jar to Tula. Before he left, she leaned in and whispered, If she wakes up, tell her I believed. Tell her I never stopped believing. Inside the palace, Tula moved silently. He placed the jar gently by the window where Malik often sat to write in his journal. The moon had already risen, high and full. Malik entered, quiet as always. But when his eyes fell on the jar, he froze. A soft glow pulsed from within. The porcelain trembled. And then, a voice whispered through the stillness. Malik! He stood still. That voice. It had once whispered in his ear every morning. It couldn't be real. He stepped forward, opened the lid, and in the moonlight, the goldfish rose, its eyes locked with his, and suddenly, a burst of light. The fish began to shift. Its body expanded. Scales fell like petals. Black hair flowed outward, and Amara, flesh and bone, collapsed into Malik's arms. It's you. It's really you, Malik whispered, tears spilling freely. You kept your promise, she replied, smiling faintly. Outside the palace walls, the full moon shone brightly, as if the sky itself had paused to witness a love song, finally sung again, after far too much silence. At the very moment moonlight poured through the window where Amara had been reborn, a cold wind whispered down the west corridor of the royal palace. Deep within the empty throne room, Zara stood alone. The bronze mirror, engraved with royal patterns, reflected a face even she no longer recognized. She knew. No one needed to say it. She didn't need to see it with her own eyes. Her heart, though buried beneath layers of power, still felt it. The curse had broken. Amara had returned, and the love Zara had tried so desperately to steal had never truly belonged to her. She took off her crown. It hit the marble floor with a cold, hollow clang. Her chest tightened, not because she had lost the throne, but because the emptiness inside her could no longer be ignored. You've made your choice. The voice came from the shadows. Zara turned. A woman stepped forward, lit by the faint flicker of a dying candle. It was her, the witch from the Whispering Swamp, the one who had given her the first vial. What are you doing here? Zara asked, her voice brittle. I didn't come, the witch smiled. You called me. You called with your regret and your fear of losing it all. I'm not afraid, Zara whispered, fists clenched. "I'm just not done yet." "What more could you want?" the witch replied. "His heart was never yours. The people have turned away. The magic has already chosen its side." Zara stepped forward, her eyes burning with a desperation turned to resolve. "Then give me one last thing. I don't want love. I want power. The kind that can burn memories, that makes people kneel not out of devotion, but out of fear." The witch reached inside her cloak and pulled out a small black pouch. Inside was a shimmering dust, glinting gold like dying embers. "This is a curse of permanence," she said, "but it needs blood, your blood." Zara didn't hesitate. She drew a dagger, slicing her palm without flinching. "Do it!" The witch sprinkled the powder onto her wound. Zara trembled, not from pain, but from the freezing energy seeping into her skin and her soul. "You have only one rule," the witch murmured, her voice like midnight wind. "On the path to the throne, do not look back. No matter who calls your name, no matter what light you see behind you. If you do, your own spell will devour you before you ever touch the crown." Zara nodded, blood dripping to the floor. She walked into the dark. Outside, the palace was awake. News of Amara had spread like wildfire. Crowds gathered at the gates, weeping, cheering. Malik held Amara as if he'd never let her go again. Zara walked the corridors silently, clutching the cursed pouch. But then, "Zara?" The voice was soft, but achingly familiar. It sounded like her mother, like Amara years ago. She stopped. Her heartbeat quickened. "Zara, turn around. You're still my sister. You can still be forgiven. There's still a way back." It wasn't magic. It was memory. It was the voice of a girl who once held her hand while they fetched water from the river. Zara turned, and in that moment, the world shook. The pouch exploded. Ash flew upward, swirling into a black flame. Zara screamed. Her eyes widened. The light vanished. She collapsed. When they found her the next morning, she was no longer herself. She sat in silence, murmuring over and over, "All I ever wanted was to be loved. I just wanted to be loved." They took her to the southern monastery. She lived out her days there, nameless, unspoken, forgotten. The dawn that followed the full moon brought a strange stillness to Eden's royal city. No more cries, no more whispers in the shadows. Instead, tight embraces, teary eyes, and trembling smiles. Amara, now fully returned to her human form, did not go back to the palace right away. She asked Malik to let her stay in Eden for a few weeks. Beneath the old mango tree, where the scars of memory needed the silence to heal. Malik agreed. He understood. Some wounds love cannot rush. Every evening, he came to visit her, carrying flowers from the royal garden and old stories from a time before magic, before blood, when two people had met through nothing but a glance. Meanwhile, the palace began to change. Malik repealed every decree Zara had once enforced. Those wrongfully punished were pardoned. The poor who had been cast out were welcomed home. And above all, Zara's name was not erased from history. Malik ordered the story to be written entirely. No embellishment, no deletion. Because no one is born a monster, Malik said during a council. We lose our way, and some never find it again. Zara spent the rest of her days in a small monastery at the southern edge of the forest. No one called her name, but each morning, a small orphan child would leave a bundle of wildflowers at her window. No one knew who they were, but maybe forgiveness doesn't always need words. On the day Amara officially returned to the palace, there was no grand feast. Instead, the villagers of Eden were invited into the royal grounds. Candles were lit around the great reflecting pool, their golden glow flickering like 1,000 stars. Amara wore no crown. She held Kiara's hand, the girl who had risked everything for what was right. And in the soft rhythm of distant drums, Amara whispered, "This girl is the one who deserves to stand here today. She didn't just save me, she saved a kingdom." Eliza wept, not because her daughter was honored, but because, at last, kindness had found its ending. Featured dialogues Amara, gazing into the water. Some wounds never heal with time, but if we face them, they become scars. And scars are memory's way of reminding us to be better. Malik. I used to believe power meant protection. Now I know true power is knowing when to kneel and listen. Closing. The story didn't end with a kiss. It ended with a lesson. The strong are not the ones who wield magic, but the ones who know when to stop. And if one day you walk along the banks of the Eden River, look closely. They say that on full moon nights, you might see a single golden fish scale drifting across the surface. A sign that kindness still lives in this world. Thank you for listening to this story. If this moved you, share it with someone who needs a little faith. Subscribe to Tales of Black, where emotions are never forgotten. And leave us a comment. If you were Zara, would you have turned back? We read every word, and sometimes we answer from somewhere else.